Am I the a-hole for refusing to help my sister financially? Let me give you the relevant background. Me, 32, female, and my twin sister have a great uncle. He and his husband are child-free, and we are the only kids in the whole family. When we were in high school freshmen, he sat us down and told us that he would like to leave his practice, orthodontics, to us if we want to. I agreed and worked hard for it. My sister, on the other hand, always wanted to be a homemaker. Nothing wrong with that. When we were accepted to college, he paid for mine and gave an equal amount to her that she used on a big wedding and a grand honeymoon. Her husband has a great job, but they have always been deep in debt because they like to keep up with the Joneses. New car each year, grand vacations, kids in private school, and a ton of extracurriculars. 2 years ago, I finally was able to join my uncle's practice. So it transferred everything to my name and left his huge paid-off house in a gated community to my sister. Then he and his husband moved to Florida to live the life. It was just bad luck that a few months later COVID hit and the practice started suffering. And that's when my sister started on the gloating about how she was the smarter twin in the end, how she ended up with a paid-for house and a great family, while I was an old maid with a worthless practice. I ignored her remarks the same as I have been doing for years. Then restrictions eased and I started making money again. I just bought a condo and a Tesla. 2 days ago, she visited me. Then she asked me for $20,000. Apparently, they took a mortgage on their house because her husband lost his job, and now they're behind on their house payments, car payments, and the kids' tuition. How sympathetic. Offered to help her budget. Said that if they gave back their cars, I could pay the difference and get them a used one. Also, that I would get them current on essential bills and get them food, but that was that. She got angry. Said that I was a bad sister and that I was lording the fact that I was a successful doctor over her, that I wanted to see her brought low. I couldn't accept the disrespect in my own house, so I asked her to leave and to only contact me when she was ready to apologize and act rational about her situation. She called me a witch and left. Then she blocked me from everywhere and went whining to our parents. I still think that I'm in the right, but I don't want to see my nephews and niece become homeless. So am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You offered to help her get back on her feet. She didn't like the solution. The sister can't be in that dire of straits if she's keeping the kids in their fancy school and not getting rid of their flashy cars. My gut tells me if Opie gives sister the $20,000, it'll go to another car, or to a super fancy vacation or something. You handled that exactly the way I would have suggested. I think it was even too nice of you to offer to help her get back on her feet after how she has treated you during COVID. Not stay home. You offered a substantial amount of help already. It's not your fault she wouldn't take it and refuses to compromise on any of her luxuries to survive. Plus, the gloating she did over you for years, and now wanting $20,000 without even putting in any effort, makes her sound like an entitled brat. So I say don't give her a dime at this point. You offered to help, just not fund their extravagant lifestyle. Now she wants to get mad and call you names? Nope. They can sell the paid-off house and move somewhere cheaper. No, you didn't want to see her brought low. She did that to herself, with all the debt and keeping up with the Joneses nonsense. They can't sell the house. They took a mortgage on it, so it is no longer paid off. Yes, but surely it's not on the full value of the house. They can sell and pay off the mortgage and use anything that's left to help fund a smaller house. She's clearly not that smart if she has allowed herself to get into this situation. I wouldn't even dare suggest it. She would frame it as me wanting her to lose her side of the deal. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my sister she needs to start being grateful for her healthy baby? My female 21 sister, 25, just had her first baby a few months ago. He, James, was born completely healthy, got to go home the same day. She had a very easy pregnancy and delivery, said so herself, but for some reason is always freaking out thinking there's something wrong with her baby. About a week after James was born, my sister got a call from his pediatrician saying they needed to redo one of his newborn screenings because he was too close to the borderline. My sister started freaking out, crying, acting like this meant he was going to die even though he hadn't been diagnosed with anything, or even failed a test. They just needed to redo it to be safe. He passed the second time. Her next freak out came when he was about 7 weeks old. She started saying he hadn't smiled yet, and everyone she knew who had babies started smiling at 6 weeks and saying maybe this is an early sign he has autism. My parents kept saying it's completely normal for a baby to not smile right on time, and her pediatrician even said they weren't concerned, but she was extremely upset and stressed by this. I asked her if she would love him any less if he had autism because that's how she was acting, and she looked disgusted and said, "Of course not. She just wants him to be okay." He smiled a few days after this freak out. The most recent freak out was his first roll. He rolled for the first time at 12 weeks, and that seems like something parents would be excited about. But nope. She was worried he rolled too early, and this could be a sign of cerebral palsy. I've read that early rolling can be an early sign, but 12 weeks is not considered early rolling. I was finally fed up with us and told her she's so lucky to have such a healthy baby, and some people would do anything to be as lucky as her, and she needs to stop freaking out and be grateful. I told her it is starting to look like she wants there to be something wrong with him. She just said something like, "Okay, sorry, I won't talk about my health concerns anymore. It has been very distant since." I recently found out she made a new family group chat without me in it, where she sends pictures and updates on him, and it's making me wonder if I went too far and hurt her feelings. Am I the a-hole? You're the a-hole. She's a new mother, and it's showing. You, on the other hand, clearly have a problem if you can't tell why your words would hurt her. You were mean and nasty. I bet if the OP decides to have a child, she will be just as anxious. I imagine most new parents are like that, discussing worries with their family. Can confirm. I remember crying because my daughter had a hangnail the day I had to go back to work. She is understandably stressed about health scares, and most of these are legit health scares. The reasonable things to address overreaction would be to suggest that she seems really anxious, and maybe she should talk further with her pediatrician about when to be concerned or speak with a counselor. Not just tell her to be grateful when she's trying to sort out legit concerns from doctors providing the required standard of care. Most of these are legit health scares. Smiling a little later and rolling a little earlier than your friend's babies are not legit health scares. This is way beyond normal new parent anxiety in my view. I don't think sister is an a-hole, but she needs to get some help to manage this. Of course your sister is overreacting a little, but she's a first-time parent and is understandably anxious about making sure her child is healthy. And some of the things you mentioned are actually pretty big deals. I would be freaking out if I had to redo a screening like that. Your comment was just cold and unnecessary. And removing you from the loop about baby stuff is logical. You've made it clear you don't care about the details of what's happening with the baby, so why would she continue to copy you on her updates to the rest of the family? Little update. My sister has always been anxious. Has been in therapy since she was 14 and still is. Has also been on various meds. I guess I'm mostly just frustrated because she seems to have an ideal life and doesn't seem appreciative. She has an extremely supportive husband. They own a house. She gets to be a stay-at-home mom. Got pregnant her first try. But now after reading some of these replies, I realize I didn't really think about her hormones. And she's probably just wanting reassurance and someone to tell her everything be okay. I will apologize, but I'm gonna give it a bit so she can cool off. Next story. Am I the a-hole for reminding my half-sister of my existence? As context for this tale, you need to know that I come from a mid-sized town in the Bible Belt, and, well, things here work a little bit different. Like 1950s different. I, 17 female, am the bastard daughter of one of the town's big daddies, conceived in an affair he had with mom, while his wife was pregnant. This was scandalous when it became public. But Southern men are prideful, and while Daddy has never been too involved in my life, he gave me his last name and occasionally visits to see that I'm not becoming a lesbo-punk. His bounteous checks have kept me and my mom afloat all these years, so thank you, Papa. Who I have a problem with is my half-sister, remember pregnant wife, Miley May, 17 female. She hates me. She always has. At the moment she found out who I was, she hated me, and she has tried to bully me all our lives. I honestly don't care too much, but I can see where she's coming from, as rumor has it that the marriage between her mom and our dad never recovered after the affair, and she came into the world to a broken home. Right now, we try to keep our distances, and our school has been gentle enough to maintain us apart in every aspect they can. Now here comes the fun part. We are both graduating next year, and as part of last year's traditions, all the graduates have to create a family tree that hangs out in the legacies corridor. I mean, basically all of us are descendants of previous students up to 5 generations, if not more. And the point is showing the compromise with excellence our families have, or something like that. In my tree, I obviously included Dad's side. I even added Miley May and her mom because they were also part of it all. When Miley May saw it, she went full ballistic. She shouted. She cried and she tore my poster apart in front of her classmates. I was not there when this happened. Because of this, we were both called to the principal's office, with our families. Miley made her mom blame me for her episode because I incited her with my slanderous tree. The principal just sat there, dumbfounded, and Wiley left Miley May without punishment this time. He said that I can put whoever I want in my tree, and that Miley May will be suspended if she destroys the new one I create. I know you will be wondering, OP, why in hell you think you are the a-hole in this situation? As we were leaving, my father came to me to ask me to not put him on my tree. He was not angry or mad. He just looked sad. I barely know this man, but I don't think I have ever seen a biggest expression of defeat and remorse in my whole life. He just said life is difficult enough as it is, and that I should not make it harder for him or Miley May, especially since I know how she is. Then he left. My intention was never to hurt my father or even Miley May, but now I feel like a total crap. Now for the comments. Not stay home. Your life story, your damn family tree. Do they want you to claim the Virgin Mary as your mother and God as your father? Edit. There are many snarky ways to not technically include them, but paint a picture clearly enough since it sounds like who is related to who is well known enough around town, if you are so inclined. Like putting a picture of Voldemort and writing, "He who shall not be named" for your father, and Hannah Montana for your half-sister. If your father did not want to be featured in a family tree other than the one for his legitimate children, he shouldn't have slept with someone he wasn't married to. Full stop. And he should have shut this thing with Miley May down when it started happening, not let her get to the point where she's destroying your property in public. You bear no blame for the situation. This. 100% this. This is your story, OP. Your story and Miley May's stories intertwined because of your dad's choices, but you were meant to be here for a reason, as was she. I can't imagine it has been easy going to school with her though now, but it doesn't sound like it was you who created the drama. Sounds like it was her fueled by her mom. Your dad is the major a-hole for not shutting this behavior down in 1st/2nd grade. But Miley May should be past this enough at this point, that it shouldn't be emotional enough of an issue to have that kind of a tantrum. I'm sure it is well known in your school and community that you share a dad. I'd recreate the tree exactly as it was before. Walk into class with dignity and hand it in, and then wink at her. That's it. Just a wink. He just said life is difficult enough as it is and that I should not make it harder for him or Miley May, especially since I know how she is. Screw him. He put himself even before the child he hurt by raising her in a household with fractured trust, and the child he hurt by withholding his presence. Not the a-hole. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to call my mother's husband Dad? For background, my 38th female mother has been a single parent most of my life. She married her husband when I was 23, and they had been dating since I was 19. I've accepted him in my life, but I've been very clear about the fact that I don't see him as my dad. I have a dad. He's a deadbeat that I don't have contact with, and, along with my mother, is the reason I've been in therapy. So, my mother's husband, let's call him David, is a massive part of my kids' lives. He's their granddad, there's no question about it. They both know David isn't my dad. They've seen my boy dad and have both said they aren't interested in him. They're old enough to decide. Over the years, my mother has been referring to David as my dad, saying your dad is on the phone, and it's made me cringe. I told her I didn't like it. She said David does, but that she would stop. She doesn't. We were at an event last week where I was asked to stand with my dad by someone. I said, "Oh, that's not my dad," and the person apologized. It passed. The event carried on. Everyone had a great time. I went to visit my mother a few days ago, and she said, "You know, you really hurt David's feelings the other day." I asked how, and she said the nasty, aggressive way you said, "He's not my dad." I said it hadn't been any type of way. I just told them he's not my dad. She said I can't believe her back here, saying he isn't your dad when he's done so much for you. I lost it. I told her that wanting to be my dad doesn't make him so. I'm the only person in the family whose dad hasn't been a part of their lives. They don't know what it's like growing up knowing you're not wanted, and just when you've come to peace with it, had someone literally force themselves on you. David has his own child who is also an adult, but my mother has never been expected to play the role of mother for them. Now neither of them is talking to me because I can't just let David be my dad. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole, especially as your mother doesn't expect the same from David's kids. That's a bit hypocritical of them. That really depends on if David's ex is an actual mother. I hope you should make it clear to them the title of dad isn't a compliment in your case. You're not my dad. You're my David. That's much better. He did raise you. You were an adult when you met him and you have a dad, and he needs to accept that. Why would you need to call him dad? A word that has a different significance to you. To show you care about him, your kid's acceptance of him should be clear that he's loved by you surely. Yeah, it's very weird to insist your adult child call your husband, who you married after the child was an adult, dad. I hope you will never view him as anything but another adult, an equal. It's almost as if they don't respect Opie as an adult. My dad remarried someone a year older than me. I was in my late 20s when they first met. If that was ever suggested or proposed to me, I would have laughed in their face, and they know it. Especially considering I have an older brother and I'm not on speaking terms with my mother. Not day-ho. It is one thing when you are a child and your mother's boyfriend takes a custodial role, is there making you dinner and listening to your problems. It is another thing altogether when you are an adult, and your mother thinks just because she is in a relationship, that you have to be in that relationship too. You know what? He isn't your dad. You have set a boundary and your mother is stomping it. David is stomping it. It might be time to start setting consequences because boundaries without consequences is just wishful thinking. So next time she starts with a dad crap, just pick up your things and leave. If on the phone, the next thing she hears is click. Is it rude to enforce your boundaries when someone is insistent on stomping on them and then getting all the butthurt about it? I think not.